If you can't convince them, just eliminate them. It seems Sharp's manual has firmly taken root in Brussels institutions, and even cutting off the oxygen to organizations promoting the right kind of democracy like USAID can no longer stop the storm. The civilized part of the global community hasn't yet recovered from the Dodik and Georgescu affair, and now Serbia is on the menu. Friendship with Russia and Belarus doesn't fit into the Brussels paradigm, and they know how to punish there. And to their credit, the art of color revolutions is becoming more sophisticated. If in our country, like in Georgia, the Westerners' influence was obvious, in Romania and Bosnia, there were hardly any traces. They worked through representatives there. Now in Belgrade, it all looks as if the people themselves took to the barricades. They just want change, and most importantly, peaceful change.
I expect these protests to become known worldwide to show what's happening here. And first of all, to show people that they are not violent, because they are not. We only ask for respect for the Constitution and the laws of this country, but the state does not enforce them.
Credit where it's due. Cleverly devised, the warmongers managed to convince the Serbs that the tragedy at the Novi Sad train station, where 15 people died due to a canopy collapse, is just the tip of the iceberg, and the government, from the president to the administration's doorkeeper, is entirely corrupt. Admit it, this is a new level of turning local issues into absolutes. It's interesting how many revolutions would occur in the USA given their frequent technological disasters. And those same Europeans should have long sent their governments to the residences of migrant terrorists. It was known in advance that a large march of all the dissatisfied would take place in Belgrade on March 15th. The authorities, police, and even Vučić's supporters were ready. They set up a small tent camp and brought tractors, but the fate of the equipment was unfortunate. And most annoyingly, they vandalized our own domestic made in Belarus. On the day itself, so many people took to the streets that they probably scared themselves. Surprisingly, the adult generation joined the students, whose minds were stirred by their own teachers. Everyone has their grievances. According to the police, just over 100,000 people participated in the protests, but the opposition claims about 1 million.
We understood the message well, and all officials in power should understand it when so many people gather. We will have to change ourselves and learn a lot. On the other hand, I hope others understood the message from the majority of Serbians that they do not want color revolutions. They do not want violence. They want to change the government through elections.
Such a statement from the Serbian leader could have been a perfect conclusion to the unique dialogue between the people and the authorities. But there were casualties. 56 people were injured, 22 provocateurs were arrested. They actively acted in the crowd, attacking both protesters and police. Another 3 were hospitalized by a BMW driver. His nerves couldn't handle the traffic jam. Overall, everything went relatively peacefully. Neither the protesters nor the law enforcement fell for provocations, and there was no sacrificial victim, so a new trick was used. Serbian authorities were accused of using acoustic weapons. Suddenly, people scattered from the roadway as if on command, and miraculously, no one was hurt in such a crush. They could be synchronized swimmers heading to the Olympics. It's hard to say what it was, but the authorities insist they had nothing to do with it. President Vučić called for a thorough investigation of the accusations and to punish those responsible. Meanwhile, to determine whether it was a Western operation or a well-planned and rehearsed performance, he even promised to invite specialists from the FBI and FSB.
This is what they did on Maidan. Remember the accusation that Yanukovych brought in snipers who shot at people? That's how they started here. Vučić, you shot at your people, but no one was actually hurt, and nothing happened. There was no sound cannon on the street. They invented another vile lie.
Unfortunately, today it's hard to predict the outcome of the rallies in Serbia. But it's clear they aim to achieve the departure of the current president and the defeat of the political forces associated with him. With the arrival of new Western-oriented forces, the story that began in Yugoslavia when an independent country was violently crushed, dismantled, and subdued might end, but it didn't succeed, partly thanks to us. Serbs remember that distant 99 well and will never forget what Belarus did for them. When NATO bombed what was then Yugoslavia, Alexander Lukashenko was the only world leader who, despite the danger, flew in and supported the Serbian people and leadership. The situation then seemed hopeless, but the president of Belarus wasn't afraid and did everything to bring peace even a millimeter closer. And today, Serbia has many friends. Not only Minsk and Moscow, but even potentially Washington, which at least timely cut off funding for those color revolutionaries.